So yes, when I was putting together the list of stuff, I was thinking about how this is going to be a very hip hop themed podcast. We are quote unquote rooted in hip hop here. That sounds kind of lame, but anyway. But also, I have to make sure we throw in some other stuff as well because we're very well rounded here on this podcast. We talk about everything from music, arts, history, science, finances. Did I already say history? History, politics. Actually, scratch that. We don't really talk about politics here. But if you want to talk about a story about a politician that recorded his wife that just came home from doing a long shift snowing or shoveling snow, we'll talk about that. But to start the more, getting back to what I was saying, start the more quote unquote hip hop related topics. We got a story that came across myself and Ghost desk, and it's kind of interesting. Um, and I was thinking, well, we're not obviously, well, I shouldn't say this because maybe we are versus some people on here. While we don't necessarily have any bad blood with the Kardashians and their whole life, it's obviously not a thing that generally interests us. So there's not going to be a lot of that on this podcast. But every now and then, if there is something that we can glean something from and have a conversation from, we're not opposed to that. So I'll let it play. We'll let it play. But just for the headline, Kim K opens up about getting a Manny, which for anyone that doesn't know, that's a male nanny, to have a male around following her split from Kanye. So let's listen to what she had to say.
My household and even in our family, it's like very female dominated.
Should we take a girls' pick? Yeah, let's do it.
And I recently hired a Manny. I really wanted a male around that was going to be picking them up and taking them to sports. And I was scared out of my mind to tell their dad that. When he was dropping off the kids, Kanye introduced himself, played 2-on-2 with Saint and him, has been so nice to him, saying, hey, if you're going to help raise my son, because he handed him the ball like really easily or something, and he's like, don't do that, make him go get it himself. These are like some of the rules that I would want. And I was like, oh my god, okay, that's great.
There you have it. Go over to the other thing. Just in case that wasn't like well digested, or you can't really hear everything. Kim K reveals he hired, like I said, hired a male nanny for his son to have a male influence following the divorce from Kanye West. And they are quote saying, I do think my household and even my family is very female oriented. And I recently hired a nanny. I wanted a male around that was going to be picking them up and taking them to sports. And I was scared out of my mind to tell their dad being Kanye West. AKA, yeah. So, sounds somewhat reasonable. We have a woman, single mom, that has kids, has young sons, and they are conscious enough to acknowledge that at the end of the day, raising kids is a two part process where you need the nurturing of a mother, but they also need the male energy, disciplinary, all the things that encompass a male in their lives as well. And since they're no longer with their father, even though I would argue just because you're not with their father doesn't mean that they shouldn't be getting that, but maybe that implies that you're not getting a lot from their father, which is a whole other question or another conversation. But they implemented something to try to work around that, i.e., a male nanny, which Manny is a little kind of close to Mammy, but that's just if your dyslexia is tweaking on any given day. So the boiler moral of the story is woman hires male nanny so their young sons have male figure in their life. Simple enough. What do we think of this? And again, we don't have to, it's tied to this family because this family is a whole nother conundrum within itself and complex in TV shows and every aspect of their life on the internet. But just in general, Do you think it makes sense for a family that doesn't have their own like strong male figure to kind of outsource one, or do you think if it's not? I mean, it's kind of cool to say, but or do you think if they don't have that, then they have to, the mother just has to adapt, or they have to just deal with it? I guess we'll start with you, Ghost. I remember we were talking about this briefly. What are your thoughts on it?
Um, I mean, it's definitely weird, but conceptually, it makes sense. Would it be? Yeah, it will be very. I'll say it, but I do think
Hey,
it's
honest
interesting
conversations only.
that the woman in this scenario had this idea, which I appreciate that, but a lot of the times, some women's in a situation like this will think that they can be the father and
And the
all
mother.
that. And not in as many words, but it's interesting. I don't know. It's very bizarre. Like I'm wondering what the vetting process was like. Like what it, it's kind of like a stepdad situation, but really not. So if she does end up getting married to something else, then does the Manny still stay on, and the kids would have three male quote unquote father figures, or would the Manny get fired?
Yeah, I
Or what
mean,
if the Manny wants to
realistically,
retire and the
realistically,
kids are attached to him? Like
oh yeah,
it's
you're right. So I was gonna say,
it's
realistically speaking, if their main role is to be a male figure in their lives, and that's no longer really necessary, then yeah, you just dump them. But you're right. If they grow an attachment to them, that would kind of suck.
yeah. I mean, if she, it sounds like she's bringing him to sports and throwing around the football. I don't know the full extent what they're doing, but if it's more surface level, and that it's one thing. But I don't know.
Dang.
Kids are very easily attached, and I just don't know if a Manny is. It's a position that could easily not be like he could be the Manny one week and the next week he's out doing. So I don't.
He's out doing what? Sorry, you broke up a little.
Sorry, so he's out doing something else. Like he got a new job or he has a new client or
I
whatever.
mean, but some of that's applicable with if you had a female nanny or just a nanny.
I mean,
Children
yeah,
get attached to the nanny too, and then maybe the nanny has to go somewhere else, and then they're just not in their lives anymore.
true. That is true. Yeah, it's just kind of weird to me,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah. And talking about this, I almost wonder if this is more of like a female related podcast topic because I guess like the most like hypothetical you can put yourself into is like I don't know if you had a wife and children and God forbid but something happened to you, would you be okay with them or would you prefer them
I
to get a male nanny?
I feel like for dudes, like if it was a dude trying to get a female nanny, uh, it just seems like uh, it seems like there's more potential for the dude to get attached to the female nanny and to look at her a certain way for some I don't know
What if she's
26.
out? What if she's outside of her of his age group?
Yeah, that is different, I guess, but
Because no one said this is a young Chad being a manny. This could be like old grandpa basically, old uncle.
it's probably an old young chap. But you're right, it could be. I guess maybe it's kind of similar to what do they have like the Big Brother programs and kind of on that wave. So it's not unprecedented, just a little strange, but
So you
if it works,
so what's the more story? You'd be like calling you let your children have a male nanny, manny?
well, you mean female nanny? Like if
No,
I'm in the
I like
situation where
I know we like to play like opposites on this podcast sometimes, but I think specifically like the more like the reason why this is a story is because one male nanny is like no one even realized that existed, and two you see somebody specifically trying to outsource that male, like somewhat dominant, like parental disciplinary figure in their life to make sure they still grow up to be men. Because if young boys only grow up around women, well, we've seen how that turns out in a lot of instances.
Yeah.
So, would you rather your young male children have an outsourced male figure, or would you rather the mother play both parties?
Preferably, it wouldn't be outsourced. It'd be, excuse me, like a relative, uncle,
Yeah,
family
an
member.
uncle.
But if that's not an option, I don't know. I guess like the term, the phrase "manny" is kind of throwing me off. But if he's like specifically geared for that role, and he's like, or it's like a big brother thing where he has experience dealing with kids, I guess it's just there's so much gray area where it could end up turning into something like attachments are formed that aren't felt on either side or both sides, I should say. But I don't know.
Hmm.
I guess I'd be okay with.
Okay, there you go. Nice and progressive. Ace, what about yourself? Do you think that a outsourced male figure in a young boy's life is something that you could imagine being reasonable, or do you think this has more bad connotation to it than positive?
I am pretty much 100% in support of it.
Hmm.
Um I don't think it's really as deep as we're like making it. I think regardless they would have uh a nanny, whether it's male or female, and I feel like that's the role. Like the guy is filling the role of the nanny, except he's a male. So because he's a male, he'll the hope is that he'll be able to have some type of positive influence on the young boys, be a positive male role model for them. But at the end of the day, he's still a nanny. Like he's still doing the job of a nanny, doing whatever they need him to do. I'm kind
Mm,
of thinking like a Jeffrey, French Fresh Prince,
oh
like a
yeah,
Jeffrey.
the butler.
Yeah, yeah. He's just doing the whatever tasks that need to be done.
Hopefully
Um,
he's like funny too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, at the end of the day, he's just a male that happens to be in there. It's like a if there was a male that happened to be a teacher, like a kindergarten teacher or something like that, you would hope that um that that teacher would be, could potentially be a positive male role model for the kids in his class as well. But at the end of the day, his job is to be a teacher. Like somebody's going to fill that role regardless. And I don't necessarily think that the kids would um form any more of an attachment or see this any more of a job than just we have nannies at the house, we've had a nanny, whatever. This one happens to be a male. I don't really think it's going to be more complex than that per se. It's just again, hopefully he has a positive influence on the young boys. um so yeah, I'm pretty much 100% in support of it. And the fact that she mentioned that Kanye was um good with it, and like he was kind of telling them how he would like the guy to be around the kids as well. It's there's something they're all in with, so sound sounds perfectly fine to me. I got no.
Now, the reason why there is some complexity to it, and the reason why it's a story is because okay, so you gotta think about it like this. Because I actually can appreciate like where your mind is at. Like it's what's the problem? It's just like there's just a nanny but it's male. So think about the role that your pops played in your life, or
Mhm.
yeah, specifically your pops, but also some of the males that are in your life. You do like what? And briefly, how would you kind of describe what they did, what they provided to you, briefly speaking?
Um, they provided like influence in terms of things that I realized that I could be capable of. Like they provided examples for things I could strive to do,
Okay, that's good.
physically,
I'm writing some of
mentally.
this down.
Yeah, yeah, physically, mentally. They just kind of give you an idea of like the things you can strive to achieve. Um, and of course, they'll talk to you about life, give you advice on different things. Whether it be school, whether it be work, whether it be women, like just all type of stuff. Like the try to steer you in the right direction. You to not make some of the mistakes that they've made. Really realizing, of course, that you're gonna make your own mistakes, but try to help you to avoid some of the pitfalls that they've probably fallen into.
Okay, okay. So those are. I mean, you kind of said a lot in the second thing, but it kind of boils down to inspiration and a lot of advice on life.
Yeah.
So, and that makes sense. I think a lot of males would agree. Now, the thing. Well, let's start off with inspiration because that's the easier one. So, what do you find inspiring about your pops or the males in your life? Wouldn't you say it's because they were doing a good job at providing for the family and showing that hard work pays off?
I mean, that was one piece of it, but that was like mainly, if not all, my dad. So I still I still got positive role models that weren't my dad that still were able to have that effect on me. My uncles, um, and other members of the church, etc.
How,
And
but how
even if
how how would you say they conveyed it though?
well, even if they weren't providing for me, I still knew they were providing for their family. I still knew how to work, and you know,
Exactly.
the older I got, could understand that they were busting their ass
Exactly.
to put food
Uh,
on the table.
100%. I'm 1000% with you. So how, if possible, does one in somebody's life convey that when they essentially and effectively work for you or work under you?
I mean, the kid could definitely see it that way. Um, and maybe it would take time for them to truly understand, um, truly understand that although the person, although the person's job is literally like to work for them to, kind of cater to them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're under them or that they're not a
But they are. It's the house help.
that
It's
they're
it's the nanny.
exactly. That is a childish way to look at it. And what I'm saying
No,
is
it's
the
the
older
way.
you the older you get, the more you will understand that just because the person was working for you doesn't mean that you can't look at them as a role model in terms of their work ethic, their drive. Again, if they have a family, to put food on the table for their family, to do something that maybe maybe you even would consider demeaning, or maybe they consider demeaning, but ultimately they're able to humble themselves to do it because they need to be able to provide for their family. Like there's still a lot of lessons you can take from somebody that quote unquote is under you.
The thing is, I'm not trying to equate this with the meeting or like say it's like has a wholly negative connotation. But what I'm gathering, and I'm not trying to spin your words or anything or put words in your mouth, but like I think the reason why some of the male figures in your life and our lives were able to have this level of inspiring, is because our perspective of them is that they are doing something on a level that we hope to achieve one day. This it can't necessarily, and I don't think that can necessarily be pieced together if you have somebody that they're on your schedule, if they're on your clock, if you are telling them what to do. That it operated. The reason why it operates is because the men in our life were essentially in a lot of ways calling the shots. Hey, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna go. We're gonna go work here. We're gonna go work on this. We're gonna go like they're calling the shots, opposed to somebody that's working for the family. Hey, okay, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna pick you up at this time. I'm gonna go get the groceries. I'm gonna clean up. Like these things don't necessarily work in the same regards. And then to your second point, and again, this is a bit more like depending on who exactly you bring in. But if you're looking for somebody that can provide you with life advice, with how to, you know, operate in the context of school, marriage, or dating, or whatever the case may be, work ethic and things of that nature. Again, if you're obviously, it's a sitcom example, but obviously we saw Jeffrey do that sometimes in Fresh Prince.
Yes.
But at the same time, there is a level of like, where do you get your experience to be at a point where you're the hired help that you can come in and help a young male, like, help him find his path on where he needs to be in life, unless you're directing him to be a male nanny for the next, to be a male influence for the next person. But how can you do that if you're my male influence and you're just telling me about, like, not you're just telling me about, but the thing I'm looking at is a person that's a hired help, and then you're helping me to get to where, not to where you are going to be, but what are you helping me to get to, is what kind of the conundrum here.
Yeah. So again, like I think maybe it is difficult for a young child to rationalize or understand or see past the surface level of this person works for me, so there's nothing I can learn from them. But again, like I think I've made it clear that it's not even close to being that one-sided or easy to just like easily dismissed. I mean, I don't want to get all into it, but I find that there's people in my life that are quote unquote subordinate to me that I still find to be um I don't know, like I don't want to say inspirational in a way, but that I respect for again, like their work ethic, the things that they can do, the speed at which they can work, whatever. Like there's a lot of qualities that you can still pull away and um take as things you aspire to, even if the person isn't doing something that is like one to one something that you want to be for, to do, for example these kids aren't going to want to grow up to be nannies, but at the same time, there's quotes and traits of this person that can rub off on them and can be inspirational to them. There's life experience, regardless of what the person is doing now as their work, that can still be very valuable to a child. So I, I like again surface level, yeah, I don't want to be a nanny, so I take learn. What am I going to learn from this person? Sure, but that's a very like it's very easy um to describe like all the ways a male still be inspirational to a person, even if to a young person, um they're
The thing
not.
is, and I'm in no way trying to say that I'm or we're like being dismissive of the level of inspiration that somebody that's quote unquote beneath you could provide. Obviously, we here at 1,000%, 1,000% respect. People that are in more servile positions are more like, you know, um, at the more closer to the bottom end of things that people need to do to help a society run. We super respect everyone that does those type of positions. The thing is, and maybe this where it gets kind of away from your direct experience, because again, I kind of threw some examples out, but I think, and they even said as much, like a male influence goes way beyond providing a her level of inspiration. If they want inspiration, I mean, I don't even want to focus on this family, but it doesn't really take a lot for a family to be able to go to somebody they don't necessarily have to work for them to get that inspiration. Like you can find somebody in your local community that is doing certain things that will allow a person to be inspired. I think if you really want that male influence so much that you want to bring in somebody, you obviously want a lot of aspects of that. Someone and even again, I don't want to hyper focus on it, but even to what, like, I'm kind of in the mindset of what what Kanye was trying to relate about. Like, hey, don't be soft with him. You have to let him learn these life lessons. These are like these are specific. These are the more male, like male related things. Because again, if we're solely focused on things like inspiration, well, you could hire a female nanny or just a nanny, and then she can inspire you, right?
Yeah, but you just said it. You said two things that explain my points. Like one, the Kanye thing. You just explained how the male can be uh can be more, I don't know, how would you say it? Not aggressive, but um allow the kid to, dust themselves off, pick themselves back up, like influence them in that way. And they don't have to be they don't have to have a position of authority above the child necessarily. They can still be in that
Well,
servile role and still
that
have that
was
influence.
that was the point there. While Kanye might have co-signed off on that behavior, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to where these two things can like completely be in sync, to where the child completely respects you as a, or a person completely respects you as a male role model that they look up to, but at the same time you are there to be at my calling back. Essentially,
Yeah,
these
I
things can't
get it.
exist.
I
Like the reason why, and I'm not trying to put this on you, but the reason why most people have a respect for their pops or the males in their life is because they are the ones that are more in command. If I'm in command, what like it's only so much that you can try to not be soft with me, because at the same time I'm talking extremely. We don't know the context of what the male nanny actually provides. They probably don't do the one-to-one duties as a female nanny. But if I can say, hey, go get me my yogurt and my apple juice and my fruit snacks, how much can you be the person that I look up to for this like dominant male, don't be soft with me figure?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, even in something as that, there can still be a level of respect, especially for an adult, that is enforced, say, by the mother, by Kanye, that you don't just like talk to this person however you want. It's please as a thank you, and it's a respect thing. You still have to see them as a an adult, an authority figure that yes, you can ask them to do these things for you, but at the end of the day, there's still a level of respect that has to be had. So, while I do understand
Sound
that
like you're
there is,
describing basic human manners respect, not a authority respect.
that's fine. Again, while I do understand that there can be that this can potentially not go 100% in the way that they want it to, I think it there is a chance that it could, and also I don't think it's like it's something that they were going to do anyway. Like I feel like they were, why not have it be a male to have a potential for um that male to be like a role model for the young boys. Not necessarily that this is like the 100% the answer to the boys not having a constant, father in their life, but this is a way that we can do it when we're going to have a nanny anyway. Why not have it be a male
I get you,
and
and I
potentially
mean,
get that benefit?
yeah, yeah, that's the key word I'm kind of harping on right now is the potential, and I guess that would be maybe the next question. Like, if you had to put a rating to like, what's the percentage of the potential that you think it will have the like most beneficial outcome?
I think it's
Because
very dependent.
before you were more like all in as this is 100% like I'm for this and sounds great. But the more we talk about it, it seems like it's actually maybe not 100%. Maybe it's like well, I don't know what you estimated now.
No, I'm still 100% in support of it. I don't know
You're
100% if
you're in
it's going
100%
to.
support of something that may not work.
Yes, as opposed to a female, go male. Yes, 100% in support of that. It's definitely the
Maybe I'm tweaking,
chances.
but that doesn't
The
make any
chances.
sense.
Okay, listen. The chances of them
Would you be
having a
100% support of a
the
car
chances
that you
of
know
them
has a
having a
50% chance to
male
work?
role model, the chances of them having a male role model in a female is zero. The chances of them having a male role model in a male,
Not based on
so
some of the things that you
they're
said.
going to have a nanny anyway, is higher. It's higher than having a,
Yes, higher.
like,
It's not 0%.
exactly. So that's why I'm in support of it. I'm still in support of it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I know it's going to work better than having a female.
one, not necessarily based off the some of the criteria that you gave, and two, I still maybe I'm like
Oh, not based on the criteria.
because you said someone that can be an inspiration and someone that can give advice. Women can give that. Women do
Okay,
it every
okay.
day.
So basically, they don't need a male role. What are we
Don't
talking about? That's like saying
don't
that's like just going
don't
back and now saying
don't come in.
males raised by single mothers
Listen. Don't
are
come in and
perfect.
ask obvious questions.
What are we
I
talking about?
am literally just challenging this notion, and specifically at this point, the 100. I'm 100% in on something I'm not necessarily sure would work. That's that. I'm tweaking. Maybe Goes you can weigh in. I just that doesn't click to me.
Wait, say that again because you cut off.
You're saying that you are 100% in support of something that you necessarily don't. You can see how there's potential gaps and holes in it.
Hmm.
That's what's not 100% clicking to me. And again, if I'm going based off, this is why I asked you specifically to get your thoughts on it. But some of the criteria that you listed that you can get from a male, well, I mean, can get that from a female as well. It's not like you couldn't get that from a female.
There's the advice, the advice and the inspiration that I'm talking about is things that I haven't gotten from the females in my life. So
I mean, that doesn't mean you can't get it from a female.
If I had to summarize it, just to keep it basic, a woman's not going to teach you how to be a man. A man can. Not to say that they always will, but I guess that's more abstract than the specific stuff Ace was talking about it. But that's how I'd quantify it, and
That's
it's really
something
hard
we went.
to
Sorry, I don't want to touch that.
describe. But that's how I look at it.
That's something I would 100% agree on. But when we get to some of the more nitty gritty things of like advice, like one of the things you mentioned with school, I mean, a woman can't give you some good advice about school.
Yeah, I mean,
you will get two different. I mean, not necessarily about school per se, but there are things that you're going to get two different perspectives on, male versus female.
I
If you
agree with
have
that.
the females in your life, but you don't have necessarily a constant male father figure, you can potentially get that from this male nanny.
Potentially, yes, we agree.
Yes, which you
Yes.
definitely won't get if they go female nanny.
Dang, that's where you lose me. Damn.
Can a female nanny teach a boy how to be a man?
We gotta not go based off your standards, but yes, correct. They can't.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's confusing you, but like the advice and the inspiration that I'm talking about, yes, it's partially just general life stuff, but at the same time, I'm including things that you can't just um necessarily from a female.
Such as.
You give me examples. You know.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it gets tough, don't it? Listen, I again, and more so just the challenging of the ideals position. I don't necessarily disagree with some of these things. I do think again, the 100% thing on something that's potential is kind of but it's not anything to harp on. I don't think. Um, Obviously, we 1000% do agree on a young children, not just young boys, although you could argue maybe it's more needed for young boys, but young children definitely need both the motherly aspects of a woman and the fatherly aspects of a man in their life. And you know hopefully in most cases, and not in most cases, but hopefully you get it from biological dad. Obviously things happen. Hopefully you have grandfathers, uncles, older brothers, older cousins in their life that can come in and help fill those gaps. And then maybe if you don't have any above, you start to outsource it. And man, if it works for somebody, I'm not completely mad at it. But obviously, I don't think anybody can look at this and dead ass in their face and say, "Oh yeah, this is completely everyday run of the mill." Because obviously, the reason why it's a story is because male nannies is traditionally not a thing. But salute to Kim K. which I don't really say often. Damn, somebody said, why not bring in Bruce? Damn, it's Caitlyn Jenner. Anyway, um, yeah, if there's nothing else, I'll say let's move to the next topic, and we are moving to the next topic, but it's still Kanye related.